how involved do you guys get in that kind of post close activity? Your merger's done. What's been the most active for y'all as far as transaction types and deal types that your clients are asking for support on?
Sure, I'll jump in. I mean, right after we recently assisted a private equity backed company in a series of acquisitions, and to your point, one of the first things they wanted to do was set up a mineral sidecar. And we assisted them with the tax advantage ways to set that up if in Texas, and then making sure that they have the proper procedures in place to be carving off those overrides on their leases that may have had additional NRI above 75% that they could push over into a sidecar vehicle, and making sure that they had the systems in place and their team were comfortable that they could do that all along the way, so that you don't reach a sale point and you're trying to do it then, uh, for tax reasons that, probably outside of both Austin and I's, immediate practice area. If you carve off an override in the context of a sale, you have some pretty disadvantaged tax outcomes where you reclassify everything into ordinary income. And so setting up this process where you're going along and doing this as the ordinary course is important. And you also need to think about, as you bring production online, um, making sure the client understands, whether or not they want to have the assets of that mineral sidecar pledged under a credit facility, or if it's going to be outside that credit facility in case they were going to exit that at some other point.
Yeah, I mean, the other types of things we do for clients who are pursuing a sale is we kind of usually we sit down and say, okay, do you have any of these? Where are your dedications? Do you have any MVCs? We kind of go through the litany of things that we talked about that can cause issues on the midstream side, and just help them assess that. And sometimes they want us to look through the contracts and kind of map that out. Many times they have their own team and they're very familiar with it. But just helping them understand exactly what they're under on contracts, midstream, restrictions on, if they have a development agreement, there may be obligations that they're going to have to line out for a buyer that the buyer's going to have to step into. Really, it's more on, what's in these contracts, consents, pref rights, how does that all fit into the picture? We help them usually on a kind of case by case basis. If they know of something up front that's potentially a title issue or it could be interpreted that way, we kind of look at that and poke holes in a lot of the different PSA provisions that they're likely to see from a buyer, and just say, okay, well, look, this is how this is, and this is how it's whose responsibility is probably going to be. But we don't go in and do a land review. That's what you guys do, and we work hand in hand with either the in-house or a contract land team, for the asset that's being sold.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much always a consolidate when you have these transactions, either, pre-transaction or post, it's a consolidation of skill sets and information. And that's what we always encourage for access to the legal team. And, the more understanding we have of what we might be facing from a contractual, standpoint, these things are very sophisticated. They can be very complicated, but the more informed we are and the more access we have to a team like you guys to understand, okay, on this deal, these are some things that we need to have on the radar, because of that big picture analysis. It informs us, makes us much more prepared to be able to just trigger those things when we see something that could trigger that. I think that's the most successful deals that we've been involved in are the ones where you have that collaborative experience, and can work together with the team in-house. So, always like working with guys like you that really understand what's going on and can advise the in-house team on things as well. What's the next 4 or 5 years look like, guys? What do you expect? What are you expecting? And from, we've got the mergers, we're starting to see transactions. Obviously we got end of the year stuff. We're very busy doing due diligence, across the country. We're doing Eastern States projects. We're doing stuff in the Rockies. I've just got a couple of Permian deals. We're doing a Haynesville right now. So very active in those transactional spaces. Where do you expect to take it, or expect the industry to go, for the next couple, 2 or 3 years?
I mean, yeah, I'll jump. my thought is I'm going to be careful not to like, I've kind of learned to not try to predict too much because you never know what's coming down the pipe. But I mean, one of the things that we could hopefully see down the line is, gas assets hopefully coming back into the picture. And I know the supply side of that is problematic for pricing, but you've seen some changes in Chinese demand switching over to like LNG fleets rather quickly. And, that's hurt crude oil demand coming from China and kind of maybe makes the case for gas. And, obviously, with the new administration, if the LNG pause is removed, that, could really help things as far as, having an avenue to get to markets, or to expand that market. We already have a lot of LNG that's already under permit, but, that would be a bright spot if we could get some of the gassier basins, up and running and having a lot of M&A interest. I think you still see some consolidation, but then, maybe that whole kind of portfolio optimization act is going to go on, and that should hopefully provide opportunities for new management teams and new investments in these projects, and people who have a lower cost of capital who can make projects work in these different environments that we're going to see.
Sure. I mean, similar to Austin, I could mimic, repeat things that on a macro level that I've heard or read in other magazines. What I've seen, at least firsthand, is the new teams that are out there, or teams that have a proven track record and are re-upping and going at it again, are moving into what maybe was considered tier 3, maybe now considered tier 2. But because they have that experience, and to Austin's point, the lower cost of capital, they can go pick off the hair of some of these what previously were troubled assets. And maybe that's because there's new sour gas treatment facilities that have been constructed, or the geology is better understood in a certain area, and so on the smaller front, on the maybe the smaller teams that are out there doing things, to me, it looks like that there's a healthy amount of inventory out there for teams to go and attack those opportunities.
I think we're seeing it. It's with some of the new funds being developed. We're starting to see private equity come back. I mean, some of our PE-backed clients are starting to talk to us. We hadn't heard from them in a couple of years, on new activity, new deals, new transactions. So hopefully, I think we're all expecting that. I think in the land profession, natural gas is key. When natural gas is healthy and those projects are active, it's a big deal for us. It just opens up so much of the country, especially here in Texas and Louisiana and the Gulf Coast. So hopefully we'll get there.